What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Now, today I am going to be doing another TV show, but not just any TV show, because I will be looking at one of the most iconic TV shows of the 90s, and I've already done one video on this, but this is a follow-up video, and most importantly, I'm going to be looking at the first ever episode, or the pilot episode, of one of the best 90s TV shows to have ever been created and to ever sort of still be around to this day, and that is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because I know you guys loved the first video I did, and I love making these Buffy videos, and I'm going to get into not just reacting to the first episode, but what makes the first episode iconic. So similar to how I did my first Buffy video, but just focusing on this particular episode and what kicked off one of the greatest TV characters around and one of the greatest sort of stories around. So as you know, Buffy was created by Joss Whedon. He's had a movie of the same name, so I don't know if you guys have seen that, but I might do a reaction to that. And also then there's the comic books. We won't get into Joss Whedon in this video today because I've already done that and we don't like talking about him on this channel. Now, as you know from my previous video, Buffy the Vampire Slayer opens with two teenagers, a girl and a guy, walking into Sunnydale High School. Well, when I say walking into, they break into Sunnydale High School, as you do to go on a first date, because that's what it looks like. It looks like they're on a first date. And for some reason they decide to break into the high school, and it's all creepy and dark as they're walking through the corridors, and the guy is actually looking quite suspicious.
What was that?
What was what?
I heard a noise.
It's nothing.
He's sort of walking behind her as they're talking, and it almost appears that the guy is going to do something to the girl, whether he's going to attack her or do something, because of the way he's acting. It's very weird and mysterious, and obviously with the back sort of being all dark and, you know, everything's sort of off because obviously they're there at night. So you almost get the impression, is he going to do something to the girl, because there's nobody around, so even if he does, nobody's going to hear her. They're just there casually walking along on their first date. This is clearly a good date. And then as you think he's just going to attack her, what Buffy does great is they flip this around and the girl actually attacks him because she is a vampire. And that really sets the tone for the rest of the episode, but also the rest of Buffy as we know it. So expect the unexpected, because the girl is the one that attacks him and not the other way around, and she's blonde, so that also really just exceeds your expectations, because you expect the blonde girl to be the helpless victim, as you saw, you know, in previous films or TV programs, especially Alfred Hitchcock films, where the blonde girl was always the innocent victim, but not in Buffy. She actually ends up being the vampire who kills the guy and attacks the guy. And mind you, the prosthetics were so good in Buffy. For a 90s TV show, the prosthetics were so good. Like, she actually looks like, well, not that we know what a vampire actually looks like, but she looks like, if we knew what a definition of a vampire looks like, she would be it. Now our story officially begins and we meet Buffy herself. She's at home, she's sleeping, she's having a nightmare that she wakes up from. Then only for her to wake up and realise she is actually living in a nightmare, because she has to start her first day at a new high school in Sunnydale after moving from LA, and where she was the popular girl back in school, so now she has to start this all over again. Little does she realise, not only is she going to be starting a new high school and having to meet new friends, but she is going to take on this new challenge that will change her life and become the Slayer that we know and have grown to love. And obviously Buffy leaves her steak, which Xander picks up, and I couldn't help but laugh at the fact that Buffy left her steak. Like, just so casually, like you're leaving your pencil or your notebook or something, she leaves her steak and Xander literally just picks it up and he looks at it, it's like, you forgot your steak? Because it's so funny, but it's so Xander and Buffy, and you know what I mean when you watch Buffy in its sort of entirety. Then we have two girls gossiping in the locker room, as you do, because teenage girls love to gossip. Especially in TV shows and TV movies, because that's all they do is gossip in the locker rooms or the bathrooms. But this being Buffy, you have a dead body fall out of one of the lockers. Just casually fall out one of the lockers. And this is just a perfect introduction to now everything's going to start going more and more crazy in Sunnydale, and Buffy has sort of arrived at the right time. You will understand sort of what happens and why this is a relevant sort of point to know that the school is actually built on the Hellmouth, because a lot of things will go down and happen at this school. Then we have Xander returning Buffy's steak, and it's like, Xander, dude, chill. If she wanted her steak, she would come and get her steak. But they're all sort of chilling outside, sitting around, and Xander, being the nice, charming guy he is, he returns her steak, as you do. You know, we know you like Buffy, and I think she'll appreciate the fact that you returned her steak. Most guys probably wouldn't, but Xander's not like most guys.
And to return this, the only thing I can think is that you're building a really little fence.
No, actually, it was for self-defense. Everyone has them in LA.
And Cordelia comes along and tells everyone about the dead body that was found at this school, but only gym class seems to have been cancelled. And I found that's the only bit I found strange, because I don't know if it's sort of a representation of how schools are in America, but you would think that not only would they just sort of close down gym class, or cancel gym class, but they would actually close down the whole school and do an investigation because the dead body's just been found? Or is it because even before Buffy arrived there, they were so used to weird things happening in their town and in their school, and maybe dead bodies turning up at school previously, but they just didn't know what it was or what was causing it? So it could be that as well. Maybe they were just so used to it being on the Hellmouth. And Buffy hears about the dead bodies, that sets off her vampire senses, and she's like, I gotta go, you know, totally acting normal, because, you know, she just found out there was a dead body in gym class, and all of a sudden she has to rush off.
Oh,
Well, were there any marks?
morbid much? I didn't ask.
I got a book. I'll see you guys later.
It was almost like Superman, you know, when he hears about something and then all of a sudden he just disappears, and then he rips out off his top and then you reveal the Superman logo. It's the same for Buffy. It's like a big B, because Buffy's here to save the day. And Buffy goes to the library where she meets her new librarian, but little does she know that this new librarian called Giles is actually her watcher, and he's basically trying to hint at the fact that he knows who she is, he knows why she's here, and there is a reason for her being here, and he tries to give her little signals, and he basically tries to then tell her that he is there to help her, he is there as her watcher, and he presents her with this book which is all about vampires. It's this very old looking massive book all about vampires.
That's not what I'm looking for.
Are you sure?
I'm way sure.
And basically that whole library is just filled with vampire books, and this is a great sort of introduction into Giles, who he is, how knowledgeable he is, and how his whole life is basically dedicated to vampires, fighting the forces of evil, and training the future or the next Slayer. And also this introduction in the library is also great because, like with many TV shows, you always have that one place where all the characters go and meet up, and it's basically the foundation of where they are. And it's also like another character in the TV show. Like for example in Friends, you had Central Perk, where you had All the characters sort of go there basically every day. You always had a scene in Central Perk where they have coffee, they talk, and they sort of meet up and discuss things at the end of the day. And the library for Buffy was basically the same thing. It was where all the characters come together no matter what, and they sort of plan their next steps in terms of fighting evil, but also where you had some of the most classic lines and just really funny scenes. And it just showed how Giles was really the center point of their friendship and of who Buffy is, because he obviously worked in the library, and that's where everyone came together to sort of bring all their ideas and end sort of each episode as well. But little does Buffy and Giles know that Xander is also in the library, and he sort of appears out of nowhere behind a bookshelf, and he overhears everything that Giles and Buffy have been talking about, and then he now knows that Buffy is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and she's not just Buffy Summers, the pretty girl in school, or the new girl in school. And I just want to point out, this was a good twist, the fact that he knows sort of straight on in the first episode, because usually with programs like this, it takes a while for the characters to sort of find out who I guess, either if it's Buffy, who Buffy really is, or I'm going to throw in a Hannah Montana reference, but it took a while for her two best friends to know that she was Hannah Montana. But in this episode and in Buffy, you find out who Buffy is sort of at the get-go, and Xander finds out who she is in the first episode, but obviously he doesn't really understand what that means. But also, how did Giles not realise that there was anyone else in the library the whole time? Surely he would have heard Xander walk in, because the thing is with Buffy and the library is you don't tend to get other students in there, or at least not often. It's always just the Scoby Gang, you know, Buffy, Xander, Willow, who will meet as well. But yeah, how would you not realise? The library's empty most of the time, and it was empty when Buffy walked in, so how would you not realise that Xander was there, probably for hours as it seems, just hiding in the corner waiting for something to happen? Like, how did you not realise that? But it was a good sort of twist that now Xander knows who Buffy is, but she's, you know, trying to keep this a secret. Then we cut to this evil vampire Lair, and this is an introduction to the bad guys in the first season. So with each season, you know, you have your big bad, and you have either demons or vampires, but this is basically a good introduction to who Buffy's going to have to fight first. And this is an introduction to, you know, some of the vampires that are in Sunnydale, and they're basically plotting their next sort of moves and how they're going to raise someone from, well, they're all dead, but from the dead, which Buffy will then have to try and deal with as the episode goes along. So we have Buffy getting ready to go out to a club, if it is a club, called the Bronze, where basically everyone hangs out, and that's also, like the library, another good representation of where the characters like to hang out a lot of the time, and where a lot of evil vampire stuff happens, and pretty much where Buffy will then meet the love of her life, at least for a few seasons, which we'll get into in just a minute. But yeah, the Bronze is also a big sort of part in Buffy, especially in the first few seasons. She's on her way to the Bronze. She runs into Angel, and this is where we meet Angel for the first time, being all stalkerish, but he's a very mysterious guy, which I think Buffy finds intriguing but slightly odd. And at this point, we don't know that Buffy. At this point, we don't know that Angel is a vampire.
Is there a problem, ma'am?
Yeah, there's a problem. Why are you following me?
We just see him as this really weird guy who seems to know a lot about vampires and seems to, you know, want to help Buffy in dealing with these vampires, but you kind of get the impression, is he like Buffy, or, you know, does he fight evil as well in some way, or is he like a Giles character? You know, we don't really know who Angel is at this point, but then we will find out that Angel, of course, is a vampire as well, but he's not just any vampire. Spoiler alert, he's a vampire with a soul, which means that he does not harm other human beings, and he doesn't drink blood or kill.
What do you want?
The same thing you do.
Okay. What do I want?
To kill him. To kill them all.
He basically has devoted his whole life or death to actually helping Buffy and helping fight evil and helping fight other vampires to protect Sunnydale and obviously protect Buffy and her friends. So he is a good guy for now, but we'll get into that in future videos. But yeah, Angel is good for now, and this is basically the start of their friendship, which turns into this whirlwind first love, head over heels type of romance that they have, and that everyone shipped back in the 90s and early 2000s, and they probably still ship now. But I'll be honest, I did like Buffy with Spike. I really like Spike, but that doesn't come until sort of later on in the seasons, and we haven't actually met Spike yet, so stay tuned for obviously an introduction to Spike, maybe in future episodes.
You've got to be ready
What for?
for the harvest.
And then Buffy sees Willow, and she's just, basically Willow's just chilling by herself, and this shows who Willow is. She's this really calm, nerdy girl. She's very put together. She's not the, you know, crazy type of go-getter. She's more of the calm, collected type of girl. She's very innocent. She's very, I wouldn't say she's shy, but I think she's very reserved. And as we watch Buffy, we see her become a bit more open because of Buffy. So Buffy brings out, you know, Willow's more open side and her more sort of adventurous side, especially, you know, with future seasons when Willow really embraces who she is, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. But yeah, at the start she's sort of very just reserved and to herself, and you know, Buffy's basically like carpe diem, you know, seize the day, you got to do that, why not? And then Willow's like carpe diem or seize the day, whichever she says, and then to her that means she basically goes up and just starts chatting to some guy who they get talking and basically end up leaving the club.
I think boys are more interested in a girl who can talk. You really haven't been dating lately.
Before that, the library man, aka Giles, is at the Bronze, which I don't know why, because it appears that everyone at the Bronze is teenagers or young people, but then you have Giles just there. But obviously he's there for a reason. He's there to keep an eye on Buffy. He's there to spot any vampires. And in a way, it's kind of like this Miyagi and Daniel relationship where he uses little things to teach her and train her without her actually knowing that she's being trained, which I think is good. It's that very similar type of relationship that they have.
Look at them, throwing themselves about, completely unaware of the danger that surrounds them.
Lucky them.
Or perhaps you're right.
But little does Buffy know, the vampire from the opening scene is there, and I think her name is Darla. And she's going to be an important character as well, but she's actually there. But Buffy just completely didn't notice that vampire was there, and she actually spots someone has been a vampire when they're actually not, and she completely just misses that there actually is a vampire there. That she I guess hasn't sort of fully come into her powers, and she's not fully in tune with her powers yet, which over time she'll just get stronger and stronger. But at this point she's still very new to it, and she's still learning how to really put her vampire senses on and spot vampires, you know, without even having to scour a room, with, you know, just by actually being able to sense them, which is what Giles is trying to teach her. Miss Goody Two-Shoes, Willow, leaves the Bronze with that guy that she sees the day with, and they start walking out, and he's like, I know a shortcut, but Willow, being really naive, is like, okay, and she goes with him and they go through a graveyard, which is like, Willow, did you not think that you're going with a strange guy in the dark through a graveyard or cemetery and nothing seems weird about this? Like, this is the point where you get the hell out of there, girl. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, I think she sensed that there was something going on, but obviously what can she do at this point? And then this guy leads Willow to this tomb place. It's basically this lair, as where all the vampires that we saw earlier on are just chilling, hanging out, being all fans, you know, as you do. And he leads her there and basically traps her. And this is where we see the guy, one of the guys from the bronze that Cordelia was trying to hook up with. He's there as well, so he's being manipulated into going there. Now he's trapped as well. And I think Buffy thought he probably was a vampire earlier, but obviously he wasn't. And now he's trapped there with Willow because they've both just been led there. And I think he was led there by Darla, who was the vampire from the opening scene. Then Buffy realizes that Willow has gone and she's like, where's Willow? And then I think someone tells her that she's left with some guy that she was talking to earlier, you know, because Buffy did tell her to seize the day and that's what she was doing. And then Buffy goes to find Willow with the help of Xander, so he's obviously there as her right-hand man. And this is where the Scoby Gang really starts to form, where you have Buffy, Willow, Xander, and sometimes you have the help of Cordelia, even though she doesn't really want to be part of it, but she secretly does want to be part of it. And yeah, Buffy and Xander go and find Willow, and I don't know how they found her, but they did. She breaks in and she sees Willow there with that guy and all these vampires, and she starts doing her witty, lovely little comments that she does, which is what makes Buffy great. But I think the issue with Buffy as well is, it's not an issue, but it's what makes it funny, is a lot of the time she talks a lot. And she gives these little snarky comments, but doesn't actually focus on fighting the vampires. As we move along to future seasons, she actually gets good at this, and she can fight a vampire sort of without even breaking a sweat. But as she's still new to this, she needs to be careful and actually really focus on what she's doing. Even though she's very snarky, she still hasn't got her full potential or her full powers yet.
Are you sure? Now, this is not going to be pretty. We're talking violence, strong language, adult content.
Evil Lair vampire recites a prophecy about evil rising up and taking over, but Buffy is kicking ass. But she's still not quite as strong as she will once become, so she's getting kicked around, pushed around a little bit because she's still not completely strong. I think she gets kicked into a tomb where the vampire is sort of laying over her. She manages to escape. Xander helps Willow and that guy. They all rush out, and Buffy's left there alone with the crazy vampires.
You know, I just wanted to start over.
Obviously, you know, Buffy has saved them, and of course she has, but obviously it wasn't as easy as it should have been for her, because she hasn't been training, she hasn't fully developed her powers, which we will see later on, how she trains, how she really gains her strength and her knowledge. Because at this point, don't forget, she's just moved from LA, she hasn't had a watcher, she knows she has this strength, but she doesn't quite know how to use it. And this scene really shows how she's building on that strength, and she's not quite there, but she still manages to help and save her friends. And then we have the end credits, where we have the little title of "To Be Continued," which I found actually really, really cool, but not expected as well, because you don't typically get a "To Be Continued" in the pilot episode, because you don't know if a show will be picked up. A lot of the times when shows sort of come out and there's a pilot episode, it's usually that they've filmed one episode, and they're hoping with this pilot episode that they're going to get picked up and, you know, they're going to have a full season. A lot of the times, you know, you do get shows that are ordered for a full season and they have that full season, but I think especially back in 90s TV, it wasn't the case. You know, you'd have your pilot and you would hope that it would get picked up. So it was really brave of Buffy to have that to be continued on there. But obviously, as we know, it was continued. It did have a full 7-season run and it was very successful and one of the best shows to this day. So yeah, you know, with Buffy, it just goes to show that they broke boundaries, they broke stereotypes. It was expect the unexpected. The blonde teenage girl was the hero in this, and you know, she was really there to save everyone, and the show was just special, and I think that's what it was. The show was just really special and really fun and really witty and really, there was a lot of scary moments in this, and I mentioned that in my first Buffy video, there was a lot of scary moments, but this episode is so iconic in itself. Even if you haven't seen Buffy or don't even want to watch Buffy, I recommend watching the first episode, which is the pilot, and then tell me that Buffy is not a good show and it's not an iconic show, because it is. A lot of shows don't get me hooked in with the first episode. I sort of have to watch and, you know, try and get into it and try and get into the characters and the story. But with Buffy, I was hooked straight away, and I know everyone that watches it and watches the first episode is, because you get a lot from it, but it's just enough. You don't get too much. So that's also what's good as well, and that to be continued was just such a good touch to finishing Buffy off. But yeah, the pilot episode of one of the greatest TV shows ever. I hope you guys enjoyed this little reaction review of Buffy. And like I said, if you want me to do more Buffy content, which I will happily do, then let me know if there's any specific episodes, seasons, or if you just want me to just react to any ones that I pick, then I will do that as well, because there's going to be so much more Buffy content on my channel. And if you haven't watched the first one, then go watch it. I will link it. And also, I hope you guys enjoyed my Clueless video. If you want to see me do more films like that, then I will do that as well. And yeah, let's get the chat started, and comment below what you love about Buffy and what you love about the first episode. And if I have missed anything, comment below as well and let me know what I have missed. And thank you guys for watching again, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Mwah!